Hello, Shoyan here. Today I'm installing the Jamb extensions for the windows, sliding doors, and then the ceiling.
Okay.
I'm starting with the Jamb extensions for the windows and sliding glass door. I use quarter-sawn cedar planks made of solid wood. If the extensions were pre-made, I wouldn't need to cut or measure anything. But since these are solid wood, I processed them from scratch in my workshop. First, I work on the sliding glass door extensions. Window extensions usually fit if the vertical and horizontal lengths are measured and cut to size. But for a sliding glass door, I need to temporarily position the side jambs on site and measure the length because the floorboards are installed underneath. Cutting the extensions perfectly square doesn't always work. Instead, I cut the side jamb to the maximum possible length, mark any unevenness on the floor, and then temporarily position it to align with the angle trim's height. Although the jambs are fewer, the installation is a bit more complicated than the window extensions. This sash has angle trim, but the frame isn't rabbeted to accommodate it. Since I am building this house using an airtight construction method, furring strip supports have been installed on the interior, so the extensions need to be 15 millimeters wider than usual. As the frame isn't rabbeted, I can precisely fit the sash by planing the side extensions. However, thin strips of wood need to be cut and attached to the extensions to secure them to the angle trim with screws. Now, I secure the extensions. It's not ideal to use an impact driver for the angle trim's small screws, but by setting it to the lowest power, I carefully use one here. The crucial part is to ensure the bottom is perfectly aligned with the floor, since the extensions are only installed on 3 sides. Now, let's move on to the door jamb extensions. Previously, I installed this staircase, but I left the stringer extended because I wasn't sure how it would align with the extensions. Normally, it's better to trim it in advance, but since I wasn't confident about the fit, I left it as is. Next, I position the side jamb extensions and mark the line to account for any floor unevenness. Since the stringer was extended this time, I decided to notch the extension to align with it. I've never notched an extension like this before. The key is to account for any floor unevenness and mark the line before determining its size. If you simply cut the wood to match the unevenness, you risk making it too short. I temporarily secured the side jambs and then determined the length of the chamois. In the past, screws were not available, so I joined jamb extensions with mortise and tenon joints. Nowadays, things are easier. Extensions can be joined with butt joints, secured firmly with screws, and transported in one piece. This entryway will have a single panel sliding door with a mullion in the middle. Since the side jamb extensions extend beyond the chamois, the mullion is also extended. This means I need to notch the chamois with a saw to fit the mullion in its proper position. This time, the sliding door will be hung, so the mullion is placed slightly over 1 centimeter away from the groove. Modern doors are taller, making them harder to carry during installation.
Go.
Now, I position the mullion. I make sure the chamois remains perfectly level because it's a hanging sliding door. It doesn't need to warp upward. If it did, the door's position would shift higher in the middle. The basis of hanging sliding doors is not to warp the chamois. Now that the side jamb extensions and mullion are joined, the entryway is complete. Next, I move on to the kitchen ceiling. Only the ceiling for the kitchen features wooden planks and it's set one step lower than the living room ceiling. I start by cutting the grooves for the ceiling bulkhead. The kitchen ceiling planks will join this groove and sit at the lower height. The wood is quarter sawn cedar with a beautiful mix of light and dark tones. I sort the planks next. These planks are for the kitchen ceiling and entrance storage. Since these would be used in only 2 areas and the kitchen ceiling measures 3.6 meters by 3.6 meters, I prioritize the best boards for this area. Even though this house doesn't require many planks, for larger projects where multiple rooms need the same materials, it's helpful to sort and allocate planks for all the rooms ahead of time. That way, I can avoid running into issues later. Now, I move on to framing the ceiling. Before starting, I make sure all the bolts are firmly retightened. The ceiling is flat and level, which makes the installation straightforward. Still, unlike on the second floor, areas like the kitchen and living room involve electrical wiring, so I need to stay focused as I work. To secure the ceiling frame, I use a nail gun. While I do use screws in some places, nail guns are more reliable because screws can occasionally break. At the same time, I install the drop bulkhead. This piece is essential for securing the ceiling furring in the kitchen and also sets the ceiling's height. Once the framing is done, I install the ceiling planks. The area is 3.6 meters by 3.6 meters, so the planks fit perfectly, requiring only 2.4 meters worth of material. Since it's only a few planks, I arrange and cut the planks on site, carefully measuring their positions. To secure the planks, I use a combination of wood glue and 4mm staples. The cedar planks would be ideal if they were muji, meaning completely knot-free, but I'm using joko, which has small knots. I wanted to use light-colored planks for the ceiling, but a few at the end have a mix of lighter and darker tones. Fortunately, this part will be hidden behind the countertop and sliding door, keeping the overall look uniform and light. 2 to 3 beams will remain exposed in the living room ceiling. I install the plasterboards between them, and later it'll be finished with wallpaper. In contrast, the kitchen's solid cedar plank ceiling sits one step lower, which adds a nice sense of depth to the design. Now, the jamb extensions for the windows, doors, and ceiling are all installed. The second floor is already finished, and the first floor is nearly done. Almost there. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.